Okay, Beth, the floor is yours.
Okay, so are we just holding off on that first one, Heather?
Yeah, let's give them a few more minutes. We'll pass on.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to the Wednesday, April 5th Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. My name is Beth Mossworth. I am Vice Chair. We're going to start off the meeting this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just as a note, we have emergency exits posted here and here. Should there be an emergency, you can use either side to make your way either out the very front door or around the sides of the building. Please ensure that your cell phones are in silent motion or mode. Applications will be heard in order of advertisement. And I'm going to call roll. Robert Peckham, the chairman, is absent. Vice Chair Beth Mossworth is myself. John Miglerini.
Here.
Christian Chamberlain.
Here.
Heather Robinson.
Here.
Timothy Harrington.
Present.
Aaron Lehman.
Present.
Thank you. There a motion for the March meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the March minutes.
Thank you, Mr. John. Do I have a second?
A second.
Chris, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I just abstain. Carried. For anyone just walking in, yep, I do have a sign-in sheet over there in the corner. The very first application we're going to hold off. We're waiting for our interpreter to come in. So will a representative for application 2023-008 Panera Bread by FSI Construction?
Hello,
Please.
can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, hello, my name's Joshua Saxon. I'm a civil engineer at Pastor Associates representing FSI Construction for this meeting. So for this setback, I will share my screen. So this is for a rear setback for the out parcel of the proposed Panera Bread at 823 Jefferson Road. It's kind of in the northeast western corner of the site, kind of directly north of the existing Hobby Lobby. So given it's an out parcel and in these plaza scenarios, a lot of the times you end up having setback issues just with the way how property lines go. So, you know, in this case, it's our rear setback that's usually 60, but we're asking for a 24-foot rear setback. It's not going to impede anything. It's essentially just facing the existing parking lot, and it's, you know, just a requirement for this out parcel. So I'm here to answer any questions that the board may have.
I don't have any questions for them. Basically, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay,
I think it is, but
any members of the board have any questions? Nope.
oh, okay.
Do you feel that the setback will give you enough turning radius for the 2 drive lanes that you're proposing?
Yes, there's ample turn radius. We opened up the curb a little bit here too, so the turn's a little bit easier coming off of the main fire access lane of the plaza. So there will be ample turning movement.
How many cars do you expect to be stacked in those turning lanes?
It depends on the you know, the time of day. Obviously, there are you know, multiple lanes in this configuration. You know, there's the drive-through lane that we'll see the most stacking, but there are pass-through lanes and rapid pickup lanes. So kind of instead of conjoining them all into one, there's going to be the 3 lanes here, which will help with the congestion. So as far as cars, I think, you know, the amount we have is ample, but for an actual car number, you know, maybe like 6 to 7, I would say, in the drive-through.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Do you guys anticipate on actually having, I think you have like curbside pickup where you go run inside and grab it. Do you guys have it at this location?
Yes, it's going to be in the front, kind of the front left over here. of the Panera Bread.
Okay, so there's only 9. There's what, 17 parking spaces total?
Yes, but similar to other plazas, there's reciprocal parking and access easements, so the Panera will be able to use the Hobby Lobby parking lot for anyone that's coming into the to the restaurant.
Are there any questions online?
Not at this time.
Is there any members of the audience that wish to question for this application? Being that there is none, this application is closed.
Madam Chairman, with regard to application number ZBA 2023-008 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has 1, duly advertised and held a public hearing, 2, has considered all relevant information, and 3, considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variances. Now therefore be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variances will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties, whereas the building has been placed in the required setback as from Jefferson Road. The property to the south of the proposed development is an existing parking lot for Hobby Lobby. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative due to the existing parcel layout of the site. The variance would be required regardless, given the proximity to the adjacent parcel. The variance requested is not substantial or is substantial due to the project asking for a relief of 60%. However, due to the existing use to the south, the revised rear setback will not create a negative impact. The variance will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions, as the layout of this parcel and the neighboring parcel to the south have always been the plan for the overall development of the plaza. The difficulty relating to the variance was self-created. However, it should be noted that the character and use of the entire development will not change from previous approvals by the planning board. Be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approves the variance as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor of the application?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Approved.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. Have a good night.
Me too.
Heather, have you heard any word on the interpreter?
I have not. One of my coworkers is trying to find a phone number for him as well at the moment.
All right, thank you. Moving on to application 2023-009, Jeffrey Potter. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Jeffrey Potter, 204 Mossy Oak Road.
Do you have anything to add to your application?
Nope.
So you're looking for a 12 foot by 16-foot shed to get the not 192 square feet. In your application, you did show us a shed. Is that the exact one that you're planning on getting?
That's what one of the secretaries posted. It is a gambrel style. It's pretty much just like that.
Okay. Do you plan on running any electricity to the shed?
Nope.
Okay. Are you gonna try and match like the color of your home?
It'll probably be a red.
Big red, okay.
If eventually it fades, we can side it, but I think it's just gonna be painted from the Amish.
Okay. Would you plan on storing in the shed?
All sorts of stuff, generator, lawnmowers, chairs, just household stuff.
Okay. No further questions.
Any other members of the board with questions? Any members of the audience that wish to speak on this application? Heather, do we have any online?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Being that no more further questions, this application is closed.
Madam Vice Chair, with regard to application number ZBA 2023-009 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has duly advertised and held a public hearing, has considered all relevant information, and has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now, therefore, therefore be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties, as other neighboring homes have sheds similar to what the applicant is asking. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative, as the applicant has exceeded his storage within the garage. The variance requested is not substantial. The variance will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions. The difficulty relating to the variance was self-created, as the applicant has the need for additional storage, and be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, zoning board of appeals hereby approve the variance as presented.
I'll second.
Seconded by Chris. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Thank you.
Yep.
Have a
Have
good
a good
evening.
night.
Good evening.
Application 2023-010 for Howard Warden. Please step forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Name is Howard Worden, 26 Green Isle Road.
Do you have anything to add to your application, Mr. Ward?
No, it's just putting, it's for storage. Unfortunately, when you get older, I can't walk my lawn anymore, so I had to buy a rider and need more room.
I would consider that an upgrade. So why the number 144? So 104 is what's allowed, 144, how did you land on that? Is that sufficient for the needs of the,
Pardon me?
the size that you've chosen to go up to 144 square
Just
feet?
12 by 12 square. It gives me 4 by 12 additional storage space.
Yep.
Last 3 years since I bought the rider, I can't put my patio furniture away. The
Mhm.
garage is full, the wife's car is in there, plus number of items, snow blower, gas grill. So I needed more room out there for storage of lawn stuff.
Sure. The drawing in the application shows it appears that it's identifying 3'6" from the rear of the shed to the back of the property line.
Yep.
Code requires 4 feet. So what that would mean is, if we approve this, it would have to be with the condition that the new shed is 4 feet from the property line.
Even though that went in originally in 1972.
That should also have a variance for the 4-foot setback. then.
Back then, there wasn't any variance for it.
Fair enough.
So I gotta
can-
move it.
Yeah, or apply for another variance for specifically for that, which would be another application process in the next meeting.
We'll try to move it.
Okay.
I'm gonna tear down the shed anyway, so it's just the flooring. I
Right.
gotta redo everything with.
Right. Pull it forward 6 inches and you're 4 inches and you're good. 6 inches. Yeah. 6 inches.
6 inches, is all I need.
That's all you need.
Okay. What is the back setting?
3'6" is what it shows in the
Yeah.
drawing.
But what's the variant?
4 is necessary.
4 foot?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll help your rider lawnmower to get back there. anyway.
There you go. Save on gas back and
Well, I
forth.
got a gate there too, so I can mow the green belt.
Oh, okay.
I appreciate it.
No more questions for me.
Anybody
Color is
else?
gonna be white like the house with red trim, just like the old picture that you got there.
It's great.
Perfect. Anyone else have any questions on the board?
Do you plan on putting any electricity?
It has electric in it. It's been in for years.
Okay. No more questions.
Anyone in the audience wish to speak on this application? Heather, do we have anyone online?
Nothing at this time.
Being that there's no further questions, this application is closed.
Madam Chair, with regard to application number ZBA 2023-10 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has 1, duly advertised and held a public hearing. 2, has considered all relevant information. 3, has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now therefore be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. This request replaces an existing shed, upgrading to newer while utilizing an existing pad. 2, the variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative. 3, the variance is not substantial as this is a modest increase in size to meet the needs of the owners. 4, the variance will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions. The new shed will make use of existing ground space. 5, the difficulty related to the variance was self-created, but a logical upgrade. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approve the variance as presented. And be it further resolved that this approval shall be subject to the following conditions. The rear setback must maintain a minimum of 4 feet from shed to property line. Otherwise, another variance would be required.
I'll second.
Seconded by Heather. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Anyone opposed? Approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Vice Chair Beth,
Yep.
I've spoken with the interpreter. He will be here in less than 10 minutes. He apologizes.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Application 2023-011, Brian and Jamie Putnam. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Brian Putnam, 354 Beckwith Road.
Do you have anything to add to your application?
No, the application is to increase the square footage of from a 96 square foot to 168 square foot shed. The intent is to do a New England style 3 dormer shed with vinyl siding and trim to match the house. Part of the application was the framing. I have pictures of that if you need it. And it's minimal impact as the increased size is only 52 inches in either direction.
What do you plan on storing within the shed?
Lawnmower, snow blower, pool supplies,
Okay.
everything. So to remove things that are in the yard currently and put them inside the shed so they're out of sight.
Okay. Do you plan on having any electricity to the shed?
No
Okay.
electricity.
Do you foresee the need to have a bigger shed in the future? Is it sized enough, large enough?
Yeah, 14 by 12 is plenty big.
Any other questions of members of the board?
No further questions.
Anyone in the audience wish to speak on this application? Heather, do we have anyone online?
Nothing at this time.
Being no more questions, this application is closed.
Madam Vice Chair, with regard to application number ZBA 2023-011 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has duly advertised and held a public hearing, has considered all relevant information, and has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. The proposed shed is not uncharacteristic of the neighborhood. Nearby properties have similar sheds in style and size. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative. The owner desires to move their personal property from the garage into the proposed shed so that they may park their vehicles in the garage. The variance requested is substantial. While the requested variance is substantial, the proposed shed size is not substantial in relationship to the property. The variance will not have a negative effect on the physical or environmental conditions. There are no negative physical or environmental effects foreseen at this time. The difficulty relating to the variance was self-created. While the variance was self-created, the need for yard and recreational equipment has increased. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approve the variance as presented. And be it further resolved that the approval shall be subject to the following conditions. The proposed shed shall be located as shown in the application.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by John. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Approved.
Thank you for your time.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Application 2023-012 for Patricia Papard. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Patricia Papard, 27 Bermuda Circle.
Thank you. And Ms. Papard, do you have anything to add to the application?
No, I do not.
Okay. And I see here that you are replacing concrete steps.
Okay.
No, there's a porch out there now.
Okay. The application indicates concrete steps, so that's why I wondered. So the porch that you have out there now, you're replacing, expanding it. So on your instrument survey, it's drawn as 20 foot wide and 10 deep. Is that correct?
Yeah.
10 by, I think it's 25.
25, that's what the application states.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that increases the setback or decreases the setback to be then the requested 34 feet, correct?
Yes.
Will that give you enough room to get in and out of the front door safely?
Yes.
Do you think that'll solve any issues moving forward for being able to entry and exit?
Yes.
Are you building the deck yourself or having someone do it?
Oh, we're doing it ourselves.
All right.
What's it gonna be made out of?
Wood.
Wood?
Yep.
Pressure treated wood?
Yep.
Are you gonna paint it?
Stain.
Stain it? Like that idea. Okay. Any further questions?
Any other questions from the board members? Any members of the audience wish to speak on this application? Heather, do we have anyone online?
Still nothing.
Thank you. Okay, this application is closed. To myself, with regard to application ZBA 2023-012 for the area variance, I move to approve. Where as follows. Whereas the zoning board has, 1, duly advertised and held a public hearing, 2, has considered all relevant information, and 3, has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variances. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties. As the aging of the current deck occurs in the home built to this era, and replacement options of adding to the front home is best for safety and entry and exiting. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative. The request is not substantial. The variance will not have a negative effect on the physical or environmental conditions. The difficulty related to the variance was self-created, and be it further resolved that based above the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approved as presented.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Tim. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
We're all set.
Thank you.
Good evening.
We're still waiting, correct, Heather?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay, application 2023-013 Journeys Lad Sign Service. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
I'm Scott Flad with Flad Sign Service at 78 North Brook Street in Geneva.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add to your application?
Well, no, just Journeys is moving into this space. They're allowed a storefront sign, but they would like a second sign on the side of the building. And the Benderson Development, the landlord has approved the sign. It's just we'll give them a little more advertising capability. This is their new logo, they're kind of their new identity, and they just wanted to get a second sign installed on the building. So I guess that's all I have to say.
It's going to be a backlit sign.
Yes, internally lighted. Yeah.
All I got.
Any other questions from members of the board?
Mm-mm.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this application? Heather, is there anyone online?
Still nada.
Okay, this application is closed.
Madam Chair, with regards to application number ZBA 2023-013 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has duly advertised and held public hearings, has considered all the relevant information and has considered the potential benefits to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood and community in relation to such variance. Now therefore be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of facts. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the characteristic of the neighborhood. The variance can be achieved by other feasible alternatives, but the applicant is requesting the second sign for advertising. The variance requested is not substantial, as there are others in the complex with multiple signs. The variance will not have a negative effect on the physical or environmental conditions. The difficulty related to the variance was not self-created, but is required for the visibility on the other side of the building. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approves the variance as presented.
I'll second.
Seconded by Chris. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Approved, carried.
You're all set now.
Okay, very good. Thanks very much. Have a nice night.
You too.
Would you be so kind as to invite Mr. Adamski up for you?
You want to have the microphone or is it here?
Which is ever easier.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is application 2023-023 Carl Adamski. Name and address for the record, please.
Sure thing. My name is Carl Adamski. My address is 209 Nevins Road.
Does he have anything to add to his application?
Sorry. I don't believe so. An offense for the variance for the size.
So we're doing 160 square feet. Is that going to be adequate for his needs?
Yes, it will.
Will there be any electricity to the shed?
Yes, there will be.
Okay. What color of the shed?
We haven't decided. Until I get to see more of some of the materials. Well, first I want to have it approved before, because if it's not approved, then I don't want to waste the time deciding on a color, but we haven't decided on the color yet. We're thinking, I haven't talked with my brother, but we'll decide shortly.
Okay, so no brick colors?
Oh, no. Something normal, I would say. Something that matches the current aesthetic, like maybe like a cedar color, kind of a brown, natural woodish, or something that matches the paint, like a gray similar to the house, something along those lines.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Is the shed where it's positioned on the property, will it be right on the property line, or is it gonna be about 4 feet from the property line?
It will be 4 feet from the property line from both corners. So it'll be 4 feet from both edges. I mean, could I ask a question about that actually?
Yes, go ahead.
So why is there 4 feet? Why is it not like 3 or anything like that? I'm just curious what the.
Was it just 4 feet, like what they considered like enough, not wide enough for a?
That's just the way, it's in the code for 4 foot. I don't know any other than that.
Perhaps wide enough for a lawnmower to get through, perhaps. Or be able to get access to the back of the building. Could be fire related too, as far as fire access.
That makes sense. I was just genuinely curious about the 4 feet instead of like 3 or some other number.
One other question I have now, is there a structure next to where the looks like a larger one that's like 10 feet by, can't quite read it. It's two.
It's a 10 by 16. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, on the other side of the pool. It's like there's a Is it a shed or a building, or is it a play area, or is it a?
It's nothing there. It's just concrete. It's just a concrete slab that's 10 by 16.
Oh, okay. I couldn't tell if it was like a patio, or I saw like a big
No, I
umbrella
think-
in
Because
the
when
overhead.
yeah, when I bought the house, it came with that
Google.
structure, that just concrete that's laying there. I haven't done anything with it.
Okay,
So it's got no purpose yet.
no purpose. Okay,
Yeah, this is my first time building sheds with this request.
okay. Okay, thank you.
No other questions from members of the board? Are there any other questions from members of the audience? Heather, is there anyone online?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, being no questions, this application is closed.
Madam Chair, with regard to application number ZBA 2023-023 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has duly advertised and held a public hearing, has considered all relevant information, and has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. The proposed shed is not uncharacteristic of the neighborhood. Properties located near the residence have similar sheds in size. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative. The property owner wishes to have the ability to park their personal vehicles in the garage located on site. This requires additional storage on the property. The variance requested is not substantial. While an additional 64 square foot is being requested, it is not significant in relationship to the property size. The variance will not have a negative effect on the physical or environmental conditions. Negative physical or environmental impacts are not foreseen at this time. The difficulty relating to the variance was self-created. While the difficulty has been self-created, storage needs for lawn and recreational equipment have increased over time. And be it further resolved that based on the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approve the variance as presented, and be it further resolved that this approval shall be subject to the following conditions. The proposed shed shall be located as shown in the application.
But may I just make a comment? It looks like it's shown right on the property line
Oh,
and the rendering, so he understands it's 4 feet. I just want to make sure that.
right.
Thank you.
I will amend that statement. The proposed shed shall be located as shown, shall be located at least 4 feet away from the back of the property line.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Seconded by Heather. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Carried approved.
Thank you so much.
Have a great evening.
Thank you as well. Take care.
Application 2023-014-015-016-026 Integ Capital.
If you give this to us, we have to keep them. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is this something that I might have electronically that I can share online?
I don't know how we can get it in at this late hour.
It's the same rendering as that's in the application, Heather. It's just in color.
It's the layout and we've only created a color just for clarity.
Okay, thank you.
Page 17 of the application.
So go ahead and state your name and address for the record, please.
Al LaRue, McMahon LaRue Associates, 822 Hole Road, Webster, New York. We're the engineers, surveyors for this application. Paul and Tony Couric, the owners, are here tonight and can speak to the structure of the building and its potential uses. So we're looking for variances. The one is the the loading docks for this structure. We really didn't want to come out onto Bailey Road, and that's not really a good place for that. So we're kind of stuck with Tech Park. So that was an easy one.
There's 4 different variances. So the first one obviously is the setback from Tech Park Drive. It's like with the building, the size of it, then having it 125 feet back would not be possible. Doesn't look like that's a bit of an issue, it sounds like, but has there been any talk about the way that you also want to have it where the loading dock is in the front, where normally it's not allowed by code? Were there any other thoughts of trying to have it in a different position, or, and I know it looks like this would probably be the best option, but were there any other, did they try to figure out a way to do it without having it in the front, or was that?
Yeah, this is the best option. In fact, there's a jog in the building that'll kind of screen it a little bit from Bailey. So they've played around with this a bunch, and that's really the best option.
First option, okay.
Can we get a little insight on what this building is and what it's used for? Kind of get an idea, 'cause we have a parking variance as well, reduction, just so we can kind of get an understanding.
Sure. I'll let Tony Kirk or Paul speak to that.
Okay, thank you.
So just state your full name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Paul Carrick with Intech Capital, 211 White Spruce Boulevard.
So Heather's question was, what's the building purpose?
It's going to be distribution.
So warehouse?
Yes.
So trucks coming in and out, loading, unloading.
Correct.
Maybe about how many trucks per day or week or anything like that?
We don't have the number yet.
Have a number, okay. And is the truck turning space, is that like a standard for a semi truck to be able to turn around?
Yes, there's, you can see in the map, the proposed truck turnaround space is actually even more than what's required.
I can speak to
Go
that.
ahead.
The variance for the 81 feet versus the 50 feet is we didn't want people tractor trailers pulling up on Tech Mark and then backing in. So we've used this before in other applications. So that turning radius will allow a tractor trailer to pull in and then back into the spaces. So that's the reason for that variance.
Okay.
It just necessarily makes it 81 versus the 50. So
I also noticed there's no truck parking. Is that something you guys foresee happening for the tractor trailers?
Not currently, no.
So they're just gonna come in,
Yes,
unload and then leave?
correct.
Okay. Is there gonna be office space in this building? How many anticipated
Yeah.
employees?
So currently, we're working with a potential Fortune 500 company. It is confidential, so I can't state it. But the facility, what we're planning for is to be a Class A facility with architectural glass in the front and the rest of the building metal with a flat roof on top. Office space originally for the plan, we planned for 4,500 square feet of office space and the rest would be distribution.
Do you know how many offices in the?
It's just going to be a spec for now until if we can land a potential tenant, then we'll go by their design.
Is there gonna be multiple shifts during the day?
Not sure. We don't have that detail yet.
Okay.
Based on the layout that you have for the proposed parking, do you have area to add more parking? Should that be required based on the tenant that you're trying to secure but cannot speak to? If that offices are going to be larger or greater in need?
right now we've only planned for I think it was 23. Certainly our impervious right now, the impervious with this plan is 50%, where 65 is allowed. So if we were to go to the max per the code to 65% coverage, that would add another 23,000 square feet. So we have the capability of putting more parking in. We just don't know how much is going to be needed at this time. So we put 23, it could be 43, and it won't really impact the impervious much. There's a lot of green around it, as you can see. So we're in really good shape with that. So it's just a start.
So 23 is what you feel is the minimum they would need, but you're not 100% sure what their future needs would be. Is that accurate? Okay.
Yeah, but if there's more of a need, we certainly have the ability to add that parking.
And you would still maintain code if you were to add those spaces, or would adding those spaces?
It would decrease the amount, they would decrease the amount of green space, but not past the code. Certainly, we understand that if we did that, we'd have to come in for a variance for that.
And because it would be an extension of the existing alignment of the parking space, it wouldn't interact with setbacks or anything like that. It would just be extended from.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Right, because we have to consider that the variances to the code stay with the property in perpetuity. And so if in the future there was a change to the ratio of office space to warehouse space, the need for parking would go up, and there would need to be the ability to adapt to that.
Certainly would. We have a lot of room to make that addition.
So you, on this site right now, you can get 150 parking spaces.
I understand.
So that's a yes?
Yes,
Okay.
that's
Without
per
it going
code.
over that 65%. So, okay. So
Yeah.
Is that the total that you can get on the property, is that also in consideration the stormwater management for the property?
I'm sorry,
So if you were to maximize the amount of parking on the property in the future to 150 spaces,
150.
does that allow for the stormwater management necessary?
it would, because
Okay.
it's all draining toward the this area,
Mhm.
the low point.
Okay.
And we have a couple drives for everything. That's where the drainage, that's where the stormwater management facility would be.
Mhm.
So the only thing that might happen is that driveway extended down further, there'd be another entrance on Tech Park.
Mhm.
In and out. So right now we don't need that, but it certainly is a possibility.
So right now you have the 85 foot variance for the width is to incorporate the proposed truck train radius. Is there going to be any conflict with the traffic from the parking spaces?
No,
Slowly
there's
entrance?
not that much, they won't have that much traffic.
Okay.
There won't be any vehicles parked in that circular turnaround.
So you have no idea about number of employees? You give an estimate?
Currently, I mean, with the distribution, they're looking for, I think, roughly to have 6 people in the warehouse full time. And then in the office, they didn't give me a exact count just because of demand.
Okay.
Given that the loading docks are in the front, will there be any sort of like a buffer? I mean, not right in front, obviously with the driveway, but leading up to it, will there be like a buffer area or needs to just kind of shield a little bit so it's not as visible from, say, Bailey Road? Is some sort of like cover from that, or is it I don't know if there's anything planned for the landscaping or not that.
Yeah, there's already most of the site is probably end up being cleared because of stormwater requirements, but we could use, one of the things that we've used a lot. I'm a graduate forester, so I kind of like this sort of thing. There's a plant I like, the gold mop cypress. It's a very low growing. It'll grow about 4.5, 5 feet tall, 5 feet wide. Doesn't get any taller, doesn't outgrow its purpose. So there's a bunch of landscaping treatments that we can use to mitigate the view in particular areas from Bailey, and we'll certainly do that during the planning process.
Okay.
I have no further questions.
Any other questions from members of the board?
One more question. I guess it shouldn't really be an issue as far as like, say, snow removal during the winter time. I mean, or it'd be pushed over to the side where the green space is. It's not. Obviously wouldn't be put in the path of the trucks or anything. It'd be pushed over towards the Bailey side of the parking lot.
It would be, yeah.
Kevin, did you need to?
The only concern or question I would have is on, again, in truck traffic, you don't know exactly how many would be coming in. Very small parking lot with, you know, do you foresee any trucks lining up on Tech Park to access this turnaround? That'd be a concern of, you know,
Currently, I don't have
road
that.
traffic.
I don't have that information yet from them yet.
We
just-
have, right now, we have 3 bays. And we're looking at expanding that to maybe 4. So we've got a lot of, you know, the trucks, if there were a truck or 2 out there, they wouldn't be out there for very long. And as soon as they're ready to queue in, they would just simply come in and go around the circle and back in. And it's a real simple operation for them. So, we've seen that work before in a couple other places, and it's been really effective.
So the size of this, turning radius and the parking lot, is that trying to be as minimal as possible? So there's not a second, exit and entry, to reduce the number of parking spots. Was that the goal?
Yeah, it is the minimum to, given a foot or 2 to make that turning radius. That's ample for a tractor trailer to turn in. So we didn't over design it.
Okay.
And if we needed another entrance, we just haven't done it yet. But we certainly have enough green space. We're over green right now, so we could always add another entrance out to Tech Park.
Okay.
I just wanted to add a comment. From Bailey, a lot of the brush and trees were left, because I know that was a concern on our pre-meeting when we had it with Kevin and them. And a lot of brush and everything was left to block off the building from Bailey.
From Bailey. So yeah, I drove right past it on the way here. So
Yes.
I saw where it was, there was some trees still on that side. So it's, but you can still see into the property as you're going past the EMA, I think is the name of the business. It's there. But yeah, so it definitely helps to have that there. So it's gonna.
We weren't
push it part
we
of
weren't
it.
planning to remove that or touch it, so.
All right.
We're gonna save as much as we can along that side and whatever, they're deciduous right now. So what we can do is we can add, spot some evergreens in that area that are arborescent, so not a shrub like. We can do some of that too in the grading plan for the planning. And that's,
This would need to go to the planning board for final approval, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Are there any members of the audience wishing to speak on this application? Heather, are there any online?
Everybody has left me.
Oh,
Okay.
do we need time or anything?
I know I'm not for two of them.
We hold this for discussion? It's up to you guys. There are people that have, we can hold it for discussion.
Which ones are you not
Uh,
liking?
16 and 26.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the fence with those.
Right down. We have enough, yeah.
Okay, this application is closed. In regards to Tech Park Drive. The zoning board seeker for applicant number 2023-016. Seeker review indicates the action under consideration is an unlisted action as per section 617.7C14. The Henrietta Zoning Board of Appeals as lead agency has determined that the proposed action described below will not have a significant effect on the environment and that the draft of environmental impact statement will not be required. The action under consideration is a variance application by Integ Capital LLC. It is an unlisted action and will not require a condition negative declaration. The purpose of this application is for variance approval for the reduction in the number of required parking spaces, 23 spaces, whereas 150 are required for the property located on Tech Park Drive in an industrial zone district with a mixed-use redevelopment overlay district. The tax account number is 161.03-1-14.112. All relevant areas of the environmental concern were identified. Evaluation and examination were carefully made in relation to the existing conditions versus the proposed site improvements. It has been determined that there will be no adverse environmental effect as a result of the proposed action. I, Beth Mossworth, therefore make the motion that we make a negative declaration and that the Zoning Board of Appeals Vice Chair be authorized to sign the statement of the environmental significance. Can I get a second on that?
Second.
Thank you, John. All opposed, all approved? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
Seeker, not, yeah,
Thank you.
okay.
Just to confirm, the opposed is Heather and Aaron?
For the seeker,
Yes.
I think it was John that seconded it.
I second this.
No, that was opposed.
No, there was no opposed to the seeker.
Oh, okay, I misheard. Thank you.
Okay, Madam Chairman. With regard to applications number ZBA 2023-014, 015, 016, and 026 for an area variances, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has 1, duly advertised and held a public hearing, 2, has considered all relevant information, and 3, has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variances. Now therefore be resolved, the Zoning Board of Appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variances will not result in undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties, as similar development configurations on Tech Park Drive already exist. The variances cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative, as the proposed development of the property maximizes its usage while keeping the building a sufficient distance from Tech Park Drive and Bailey Road. The variances requested are not substantial, or sorry, they are substantial, but are needed in order to provide relief required to complete the project as desired by the applicant. The variances will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions, as similar configurations already exist on Park Drive, Tech Park Drive, that is. The difficulty relating to the variances was self-created due to the applicant's requirements, the configuration of the parcel, and the desire to maximize green space to create a pleasing development when viewed from the road. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the Zoning Board of Appeal hereby approves the variances as presented.
Is there a second for Chris?
I will second it.
Tim seconds. All those approving, say aye.
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 All opposed?
Opposed.
Heather and Aaron opposed. Application carries. It is approved.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good evening.
Evening.
Application 2023-017, Julie Smith. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Brian Beechner and I represent Julie Smith at 32 Florendon Drive. I am with Comfort Windows and we are under contract to build the walkway that is being proposed.
Do you have anything else to add to the application?
I kind of came in late because Larry is ill. He was supposed to be here, but I do believe you have all the pictures and the drawings that of what we're replacing as far as the concrete that kind of graduated stepping that's there now. The plan is to just go over that a little bit wider so she feels a little bit more comfortable, and also adding her the ability to under universal design to eventually someday add a ramp. And that's why we're configuring this to come straight out from the house, and then the stairs down eventually could be replaced with a ramp. If that was to become necessary.
Okay. Are the existing concrete steps, are they starting to deteriorate or?
They are.
Okay, and the need is really for a railing.
There will be a
Also,
railing, yeah,
okay.
yeah, there'll be a railing, it'll be an ADA compliant railing.
Okay. And it's gonna be made out of what material?
The structure, the footers will be poured concrete footers. The inner structure will be pressure treated, and the appearance materials on top will all be composite and vinyl.
Okay. Is the intent just for the safety and to get into the home, or is it to maybe sit up on the porch?
I don't believe there's gonna be enough room for a chair on the way this is laid out. She did mention, potted plants, that kind of thing.
Okay,
But
make it aesthetically pleasing, but not.
yes,
functional.
exactly.
Besides
And
that.
based on national code, there isn't a requirement because of the height for the railing all the way around. So she requested not to have a railing facing the street, which I think actually in the design aesthetic helps, keep it from looking too busy. The stairs will require a railing, but the perimeter is below 31 inches, which is the standard for needing a railing, requiring a railing.
Okay,
But there will be a railing on most of it, just the front leading edge.
yeah,
She will not have one.
okay. Have no further questions, just.
Anyone else on the board have any questions?
Mm.
Any members of the audience wish to speak on this application? Heather, is there anyone online anymore?
No, just me.
The application is closed. No more questions.
Madam Vice Chair, with regard to application number ZBA 2023-017 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has duly advertised and held a public hearing, has considered all relevant information, and has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties. The applicant will be improving the curb appeal to the home with replacing the deteriorating concrete steps with a front porch. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative. Creating a porch is the feasible alternative for the application. For the applicant to safely get in their home. The variance requested is not substantial. The variance will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions. The difficulty relating to variance was not self-created due to the weather and the age of the existing steps. It has become a safety hazard, causing the need to replace the steps with a porch. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approve the variance as presented.
I'll second.
Seconded by Chris. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Approved, carried.
Thanks for your time.
Have a good evening.
Take care.
Okay, for application 2023-018-019-020, 021 and 022, Tyler Keller.
Yes, hi, Tyler Keller, 1063 Erie Station Road.
Do you have anything to add to your application as you submitted?
I do not this time, no. This is my wife.
Sorry, Valerie Fleischauer.
So killers, plural. I gave the overview to the board. We have the imagery in front of us. So you've got a unique situation. You've got significant variance requests,
Yes.
but a unique situation that you've got a historic home. You've got a preliminary approval from the historic committee. You've got a letter that shows no objection from the neighbors. So my thought is if you would describe for us the neighbors lot size and where your lot is relative to that? And what that portion of the neighbor's land is looking like into the future?
Okay.
And where those two things meet?
Okay. So our property is a little less than a half acre that was broken off of originally 88 acre, well, an 89 acre parcel. The current 88 acre parcel is, I would say, about 75–80% farmland. It is on, well, between Erie Station Road and Myron Road to the north and south, and Middle Road and Interstate 390 to the east and west. Where our property is located was the original farmhouse of the current farmland, and it was subdivided off of the remaining 88 acres around 1960. With where we are located, we are approximately 50 feet below the median level of the farm field. In other words, if you were to go back about, I believe it's 200 feet from the center line of Erie Station Road, there is a crest of a hill. And at that point, the property levels off for the most part and is currently being farmed. So the 200 feet from that crest going north to Erie Station Road is where our house resides. And it is currently 50% brush. The other 50% is cleared, but none of that is used in any way, shape, or form.
And you've communicated with the neighbors about their intent for that portion of their parcel is what?
So I've had extensive communication with the neighbors. We've owned the property for 5 years now. And we actually started talking to them before we even closed on it. They are not interested in selling it at this point, which we will respect. We have made an offer, I will say, but as I said, we are respecting their wishes to not sell at this point. They have communicated that they have no inclination of developing any of the 88 acres in the foreseeable future. And should they decide to, they have even less of an inclination to develop the portion around our house.
Understood. And then so the intention behind a large garage like that, why so much space needed?
Because on the rendering that's on the screen, you'll see the middle top right, there's a silo. There's an existing silo from the existing property, and there is a foundation there. That was one of 2 barns on the original farmhouse. And those were the 2 primary points of storage for the property. Once our house was subdivided, which our property line goes down pretty much the center of our driveway currently. Our current property has 0 storage whatsoever. We've got a basement which floods during the wet season right now. So the reasoning for a large garage like this is because we do not have a garage to park our cars in, and we appreciate our cars and do not appreciate them being covered in sap and having to, put the extra repair work into our paint, because our entire property is covered with mature trees. So we would really like to have a garage to park our cars in and not need to be repairing the paint on it. And then, so that's for the approximately 740 square feet I'm asking for. Half of that is to be dedicated to parking the cars. The other half is to be dedicated to a workshop area. For the immediate future, that workshop area is to be, so we can have pretty much a landing spot for any projects we're doing with this house. If you've driven by it, it's not in the best of shape right now, but we are going to be starting an overhaul on it here within the next few months. So we need the workshop area for being able to do larger projects and store materials. And should we have equipment like bobcats on the property during the process of doing site work, we want to be able to store that out of sight from our neighbors and keep the space clean and clear. And then the space above the garage, we are intending to use as storage.
Understood. In the driveway currently gravel, what will the new driveway be?
For the time being, it will remain gravel. We are proposing a concrete pad on the west side of the garage where the double overhead door is. With this being a historic property and also being zoned in rural residential, gravel driveway is permitted. It is my intention in the future to either do a paved driveway or stamped concrete, but I've got bigger fish to fry right now.
Understood. I have no more questions, and I would comment that your paperwork is very thorough and it's appreciated.
One thing I would add to that note, and I appreciate that, is actually, I guess two things I'd add. This has been in the process for about 3 years. We've had a lot of back and forth with our neighbors just to make sure that they were clear on our intentions. This wasn't just thrown together quickly. There's been a lot of thought put into this. And the reasoning for the side setback that I'm requesting is I want this to look as if it was originally built. So where the silo is, and if someday between myself or my neighbors, one of us decides to rebuild the barn that was adjacent to the silo, I want this to look cohesive. So if you're standing at the street and you were to look up, into our lot, you wouldn't know that that garage was new. If the garage was to be over to the east a little bit more, it would separate the property and just look broken up and like it was pieced together.
Makes sense. I have no other questions.
Any other members of the board with questions? So the side setback, now you wanted to put the pad, the concrete pad. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, I don't have any further questions. I'm just thinking out loud. Sorry. Any members of the audience wish to speak on this application, please come forward. If you would step aside, state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Gary Goodrich and I chair the Historic Site Committee of Henrietta. You should have all received actually a couple of letters from the committee. One of which was today, and if you haven't, I do have a copy here if somebody would like to see it. The other thing is, in speaking with Supervisor Schultz earlier today about this, because this was actually brought up at a town board meeting a couple of weeks ago with the public hearings. The committee has been working with the Kellers for almost a year now. In this past December, Tyler came forth and did a presentation with renderings. These are slightly different. These are better than the ones we were shown. But he showed us the whole project they want to do, and we made our recommendations, and we've been going back and forth with them. We met this past Monday because when he did his first initial presentation to us, they were not ready to apply for any permits or variances. So therefore, we did not vote on this project. At the town board meeting, the supervisor brought up the fact that they had a recommendation letter from us, which you do also, saying that we were on board with this project, but he wanted to have the renderings and more of the complete project reviewed by us before the town board decided. So that's why at our Monday meeting, Tyler presented to us again with these renderings, and we discussed the entire project. And our committee voted to approve this, which is why you've got the letter you received today. And like I said, speaking with Supervisor Schultz today, he wanted me to let the board know that the town board had no issues at all with what was being presented for this historic site. The Kellers are working very hard to keep the historic characteristic. So we feel that it's actually going to be an improvement rather than a detriment. At the town board meeting, their closest neighbor actually came and spoke and said he is very much on board with this project also. Mr. Keller hasn't provided the final plans only because he wants to make sure that he has variance approvals. But we are retaining review of anything moving forward, but it won't change anything regarding your setback variances that you have now.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Great cooperation.
Thank you.
Are there?
I know what I was thinking. So you wanted to add, a concrete pad or asphalt, whatever you guys decide in the future, in front of the doors. That is gonna be, looks like it's gonna come up to your property line. Is that correct?
Correct, and that was one of the variances for the zero setback.
Yeah, okay.
And just to clarify, it will be an immediate concrete pad off of the garage.
Okay,
And then the gravel driveway will come up to that. Should we decide to pave or do a stamped concrete in the future, that will then replace the gravel driveway. But the concrete pad adjacent to the overhead door will be as part of this construction.
okay. No further questions.
Are there any other questions from members of the audience? Any from the board members here? Heather appears still to be the only one online. This application is closed.
Madam Vice Chair, with regard to applications ZBA 2023, 18, 19, 20, and 22 for an area variances, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has duly advertised and held a public hearing. 2, has considered all relevant information. And 3, has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variances. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties. Considerable effort has been put into these plans and the impact to this historic site and structures, so that both current and potential future changes are well thought out and consistent with the character of the neighborhood. 2, the variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative, given the number of variables like parcel size and shape, water treatment renovations, potential lot expansion, etc. With zero garage space or structure to accommodate lifestyle and historic maintenance is necessary here. 3, the variance is substantial, but the plans have been researched, communicated, and have gotten written approval from both historic committee and neighbors. 4, the variance will not have a negative effect on the physical or environmental conditions. 5, the difficulty related to the variance was self-created, but the significant thought was put into these designs to solve the lack of storage on this historic parcel. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approves as presented.
I'll second.
Seconded by Heather. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Approved, carried. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Can't wait to see the place
Yeah.
when you're done.
Okay, application 2023-024-025, Alliance Security Technologies. State your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Good evening. My name is John Sharaba. I'm with Land Tech. My office is located at 1105 Ridgeway Avenue, and I'm representing this application this evening. I know it's been a long night, so I'll be brief. I know the board's familiar with this highly commercial industrial area, and I believe that our requests are in the character of the neighborhood. And I can answer any questions you have at this time.
The front setback you indicated in the application kind of goes along with other buildings along that area. And then the request for the 15 parking spaces, whereas 18 is required. Is that enough parking? How many people are there during the day?
There's going to be 6 to 10 people
Okay,
on site.
so that would account for visitors or?
Yeah, it's a warehouse facility.
Okay.
So I think I don't think there's going to be a lot of there's no commercial traffic, obviously. But I think that's going to work out just fine.
Any issues with loading or unloading if it's a warehouse of?
We are not proposing a loading dock at this time. We probably will have a garage door in the back for incidental deliveries and things like that, because we do have more parking than we need, but we do not meet code.
Are there any other questions, from members of the board?
Nope.
Mm-mm.
No.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in regards to this application? And Heather is still the only one online. With that, application is closed. In relation to 187 Clay Road, Zoning Board of Appeals seeker for zoning variance application number 2023-025. Seeker review indicates the action under consideration is an unlisted action as per section 617.7C14. The Henrietta Zoning Board of Appeals as lead agency has determined that the proposed action described below will not have a significant effect on the environment and that a draft environmental impact statement will not be required. The action under consideration is a variance application by Alliance Security Technologies. This is an unlisted action and will not require a condition negative declaration. The purpose of this application is for the variance approval and for the reduction in the number of required parking spaces, 15 total spaces, whereas 18 are required, for the property located at 187 Clay Road in an industrial zone district. Tax account number 162.05-1-2. All relevant areas of the environmental concern were identified. Evaluation and examination were carefully made in relation of the existing conditions versus proposed site improvements. It has been determined that there will be no adverse environmental effect as a result of the proposed action. I, Beth Mossworth, therefore make the motion that we make a negative declaration that the Zoning Board of Appeals Vice Chair be authorized to sign the statement of environmental significance.
Second.
John seconds. Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Any opposed? Sorry. Carried.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Well, we're not done yet.
Oh.
That was just for the seeker.
The first one.
Environmental. All right.
Just for that, she may, deny
Yeah,
it.
no, that's a like reconsider. All right. To myself in regard to application ZBA 2023-024 and 025 for the area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has one duly advertised and held a public hearing, has two considered all relevant information, and has three considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variances. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties. There is an industrial zone and setback is in line with other businesses on road. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative. Location of building is best located as drawn out for parking needs. The variance is not substantial. Reduction is for 3 spaces. The variance will not have a negative effect on the physical or environmental conditions. The difficulty related to the variance was self-created, and be it further resolved that based above the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approve the variance as presented.
I'll second.
Seconded by Heather. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Now it's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a good night.
And the meeting is closed at 8:20. Thank you, everyone.
Great work, guys. That was quick.
That was efficient.